Like, this kind of disruption does not happen to right-wingers, man. This kind of disruption, regardless of the amount of pushback that they receive from actual student groups and actual protesters and actual organizers, schools never do this kind of thing. Venues never do this kind of thing for Ben Shapiro. They never do this kind of thing for Charlie Kirk. It only goes in one direction. I find that very odd.
Hello everyone, Ace here, and today let's talk a little bit about Hasan Piker, who is now reduced to saying that he is facing more political persecution than Charlie Kirk, because he recently had some events cancelled. And don't you know that is more political persecution than being shot to death during an event, and said assassination resulting in the majority of an entire political side cheering it on as a good thing actually. Hasan himself has called for the blood of capitalists to run in the streets as well since. Hasan Piker has gotten away with a hell of a lot over the course of years, and the sheer amount of shit that Twitch just allows him to get away with is genuinely beyond the pale. The man quite literally abused his dog multiple times and in multiple different ways while streaming, and Twitch hasn't permanently removed him from the platform as a result, despite the fact that it would be one of the few instances where, yes, Twitch would be well within the rights to 100% remove someone completely from the platform. Hasan hasn't even faced criminal charges over that, even though he really should. In fact, it's only just recently that he's starting to face some actual notable pushback, and it would seem it's not even for that. When the UK banned him essentially from entering the country, yeah, that is in fact Hasan Piker facing political persecution, for what it's worth. The UK government could have used an actual valid reason, such as the fact that he's an animal abuser, as justification for not letting him in, but instead they chose something inappropriate. The position that he has criticized Israel as somehow valid grounds to keep him from coming to the UK is frankly ridiculous. That said, if Hasan Piker really did want to go to the UK, he could do what I mentioned in a previous video, just hitch a ride with the boat migrants, and he'd be let in without a fuss. On the other hand though, these latest statements from Hasan Piker are not the result of him getting cancelled from the UK itself, it's from him getting cancelled from events in the city of Denver, because nobody wanted to host him. And ironically enough, he originally was of the opinion that it was because he was just so popular that they needed to move it to bigger and bigger venues.
I just found out there were like venue changes because I thought it was because like people were showing a lot of interest, and there were numerous venue changes, and the last venue that we arrived at, they canceled last second. Julie also dropped out. Senator Julie Gonzalez statement: today I'm deciding to no longer participate in the rally with Hasan Piker at no fault of the event organizers. Multiple venues have canceled the 11th hour, and I have been told that it was a violation of the venue contracts. I appreciate Hasan Piker, Malak Quiroz, and Justin Pearson and Representative Donna McKinney for inviting us to engage. In my remarks today, I plan to speak about the toll that crisis after crisis, outrage after outrage, and the trauma after trauma inflicts on Coloradans, while both Democratic establishment and MAGA extremists either take voters like us for granted or even worse, fail to take our pain into consideration at all. These are big business owners that are capitulating to at a time when there's unprecedented amounts of attacks on free speech. These are big business owners that seemingly are supposed to be apolitical or liberal adjacent, turning around and leaning into the right-wing smears. Like, this kind of disruption does not happen to right-wingers, man. This kind of disruption, regardless of the amount of pushback that they receive from actual student groups and actual protesters and actual organizers, schools never do this kind of thing. Venues never do this kind of thing for Ben Shapiro. They never do this kind of thing for Charlie Kirk. It only goes in one direction. I find that very odd.
So yes, as you can see, this cancellation of Hasan Piker from the city of Denver is proof that he is facing political persecution, so says Hasan Piker. More political persecution than even faced by Ben Shapiro or Charlie Kirk. Now, I would think that the fact that Charlie Kirk, like I previously mentioned, got shot, and the left as a whole decided to cheer it on, with rare exceptions revolting at that idea. Yeah, at that point, I would say that Charlie Kirk has indeed faced maybe a little bit of political persecution. More than Hasan Piker, I would say at this point. And in the case of Ben Shapiro, well, he has had multiple events cancelled in the past, including some over concerns of his safety, which again is a reasonable concern to have considering what happened to Charlie Kirk. Now, is Hasan Piker facing any political persecution at all? Technically, yes. As I previously mentioned, look at the UK banning him, for example. Even then, one look at the number of crimes that he has faced zero time for, as well as the amount to which Twitch protects his channel and refuses to permanently ban it, and it is very clear that Hasan Piker is being protected much more in the grand scheme of things. He is getting far more preferential treatment than he is persecution. And only now is he starting to face any real amount of accountability, and it's really shaky as to whether that accountability will last. Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk had to put up with so much more, and both had to put up with actual political persecution over far, far less. Neither of them were calling for the blood of their enemies to run in the streets the way that Hasan Piker did. Neither of them are animal abusers. Neither of them promoted terrorism. But Hasan Piker, who has done all of those things, still wants you to believe that him getting an event cancelled in Denver is both worse and greater political persecution than Charlie Kirk getting ventilated in front of his family for all the world to see. And never forget, at the end of the day, that is the world that Hasan Piker himself wants. That's what he called for when it came to his enemies. So forgive me for not shedding any tears at all over Hasan Piker himself, being on the receiving end of 1,000th the stuff that he supports being done to those he disagrees with. Were the right actually anywhere near as prone to violence and prone to evil as the left, the way that Hasan Piker and Dev and Destiny and Wick TV would have you believe, and considering that Charlie Kirk's own tame opinions were enough to get him shot, then in that situation, the right would have skinned Hasan Piker alive and made him survive it by comparison, considering the far more heinous shit that he himself has advocated for, and has also done. Clearly, due to the fact that Hasan Piker still has his skin, the right has not done that. The right is not anywhere near as violent or evil as the left. Instead, the right is, quite correctly, investigating Hasan Piker for potential wrongdoing. Charges have not actually been filed yet, but if they are filed for, him collaborating with the Cuban government, then that would actually be justifiable. What with the Cuban government being a state sponsor of terrorism.